I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, January the 8th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is a bold, straight shooting tulathromycin injection. It's a generic Draxin is what it is. It does what it's supposed to do for you, for your cattle, and most importantly your bottom line. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards, boy did they have a big week last week. Just coming right out of the New Year's, and with New Year's Day landing on a Monday, they had the regular Monday feeder cattle auction on Tuesday. It would have killed any other sale. They had a huge run, had a good run of cows, slaughter cows on Wednesday there. They had a big value-added sale on Thursday. They had a primetime livestock video right after the sale on Thursday. They sold over 25,000 head of cattle at Joplin Regional Stockyards last week. They've got another 6,500 head for the regular Monday sale here today. And get in there on DVAuction, check them out. View and bid the sale right there. They're going to have a special bred cow sale coming up January the 24th. If you've got cows you want to consign to that, get a hold of them. They do not mess around at Joplin Regional Stockyards. That is Cattle Marketing Central, guys. Impressive start to 2024. And my gosh, I think we all thought that. I mentioned that I believed that we would come into the new year on the upswing. With you know, your feeder cattle buyers being aggressive and being excited about getting back into the markets and start going again. The board was surprisingly helpful there with the first real trade day after the holidays, which was Tuesday. Both your live cattle futures and feeder cattle futures were up well over $3. That was impressive. That's always good to see, and then that lent a lot of optimism going into a big week of marketing. And we had a lot of big sales around, but we had some sales that were still closed for their holiday break. Now this week we will go back and all of your cattle auctions will be back on their regular schedule. Be a lot of cattle marketed here this week. I don't think that the heavier supplies is going to hurt the market at all. We're still tight on numbers, guys. We got a lot of people who are still looking for wheat cattle. We've got a lot of available feed up in the Midwest and Northern Plains. A lot of guys have silage and things like that to feed, and so we're expecting it to continue like this. Your fat cattle market was better this last week. It might be better yet going forward here. We don't know. But we saw your packers being short bought and hungry coming into the new year. They've been running extremely tight chain speeds. They actually turned them up just a little bit here, even though we were still kind of in a holiday week. But I think they're going to start having to keep the harvest up pretty decent here just to fill their needs going forward. Because there's got to be a lot of filling of shelves that were depleted during the holiday period there. I had a busy week over this past weekend. I went to Oklahoma City and spoke to a group of Oklahoma and North and South Dakota young farmers. So did that on Friday afternoon there, and then went on up to El Dorado Springs, Missouri, and spoke with a bunch of producers from that were customers of Hometown Crop Solutions, and that's Gator Hutchinson there in El Dorado Springs, Missouri. I got to stay and hang out with my buddy Wes Spinks, and I stayed in his hunting cabin there. We had a good time. On Saturday we made it over to a little Mennonite country store, and they had made-to-order sandwiches there. I ran into and had a short conversation with somebody there that's after my own heart, and I feel the same way that they feel right there. So that was kind of a fun happenstance there, but had a good weekend, busy weekend there. But was able to get out of the Midwest before the snow starts coming. And here on Monday and Tuesday, they are expecting a pretty good snowstorm to come across. Of course, it's going to be worse further up into the Midwest and into the upper Midwest, but some fairly significant measurements of snow expected. The wind is probably going to be the main thing that's going to cause a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of drifting happening. We're going to have a lot of wind down here in the southern plains too, but there's just not enough moisture in the atmosphere for us to have much snow or anything. But it could be, it's going to be miserable for people that are out in it, miserable for the cattle with 40-mile-an-hour winds and spitting stuff. But we'll get through it here first part of this week and move on from that. I haven't told you about Ellis and Carter Cattle Company's purchases lately. Talk to Ellison regularly. They were pretty slow over the holidays. The sales weren't running very big there for 2 full weeks, so they were really slow. And like he made mention there last week, he said, I'm just trying to figure out what this market is. But he went ahead and sent me his shippings that he had on Sunday, and you guys can kind of look at that. And if you're interested in ordering some cattle that way, go to ellisandcartercattle.com and you can get a hold of them right there. But steers and bulls, these would be Central Texas bought cattle there and shipped out of there, and these are delivered prices to the Texas Panhandle, western Oklahoma, maybe even up as far into southern Kansas. But some steers and bulls, good kind, solid colored kind of cattle, had a load average 290. And they delivered those for $307.70. A load weighed 350 at $287.40. Load average 420 pounds. Good steers and bulls, solid colored, good cattle. Average 275.85 delivered. Load at 490 pounds at 263.65. Load of plainer steers, be some crossed up steers on them, and bulls. Average 550 pounds at 255.70, and a load of good quality all steers averaging 640 pounds delivered for 263.80. Look at some heifers, some little heifers that average 305 pounds, good quality heifers at 270.15 delivered. Another load averaging 340 pounds at 261.95. Load of good heifers averaging 420 pounds at 251.20 delivered. Some plainer heifers averaging 540 pounds at 233.65, and some good bigger heifers, be short yearling, 605 pounds delivered at 229.85. Like I said, if you're interested in those kind of cattle, get a hold of them at ellisandcartercattle.com. How about DVAuction? Working for them always. And we had our December production sale report. Production sales, you know, that's our bread and butter is the bull sales and the replacement female sales too. December's not a big month for us, but we did have several sales. As we go forward here, January, February, and especially February and March, we're going to have huge months. Busy every day having bull sales. If you want to shop for bulls, get a hold of us. Go on to DVAuction.com and go through our sales. We have online catalogs and all of our sales there. You can go through there, look at the EPDs, look at the bulls, look and see where they're from, and do some shopping on there, and then be ready to tune in for those live sales when they get there, and you can view and bid right there at DVAuction.com. But for our December production sale report, we had total bids of over 12,600 bids. Just on our production sales, not our commercial sales, but we get a lot of bids on the commercial sales too. But lots sold in our production sales in December. We had over 2,700 lots that were sold online on the DVAuction console, and purchases in December in our production sales of almost $12.9 million of purchases there. If you're not using DVAuction to broadcast your production sale, you need to get a hold of us and do that. We do a lot of them. and the guy that's in second is way behind. So get a hold of us at DVAuction.com. Give us a call. We can make it to your bull sale. Get it on the schedule, get it promoted, and get them sold. Let's talk about our board for last week, our February live cattle futures. Monday was a holiday. Tuesday was up 342. I mentioned that earlier, starting the week out, starting the year out, up 342. That made us feel good. But then Wednesday was down just 7 cents, Thursday down 72, Friday down 55. February live cattle contract ended the week at 170.57, still up over $2 for the week. And your live cattle futures, they're just kind of hanging around in the low to mid 170s until we get to December, and then it pops up to 180. So you might think about that whenever you're buying these feeder cattle and these lighter cattle that are going to be fed and marketed fat, a year from now. But you look at your LRPs out there; they're pretty handsome too. Of course, they're based on your futures market there, so you might want to check those out, guys. You can lock in a pretty decent price. How about your feeder cattle for January? Monday was New Year's Day. Tuesday up 312 last week. Wednesday up 65. Thursday was down 140. Friday down 155. January feeder cattle ended the week at 223.12, up 82 cents there. March ended the week at 224.15. Your grains were some lower last week to start the year. Corn ended the week at 4.60 and 3/4 cents a bushel. Beans ended the week at 12.49 and 3/4. And Kansas City hard red winter wheat for March ended the week at 6.28 a bushel. Your fat cattle trade up through Thursday was higher, $2 to $3 higher live, from 172 to 175. We saw the market get a little bit higher. They were buying cattle at 175 up in the northern plains. The guys in the southern plains were wanting the 175. They were getting very, very close to that on Friday morning on the Fed Cattle Exchange online bidding console, and those highest cattle up there were almost 175, but that was on the bid the grid, and it was on some half-blood cattle that the packers really like, but there was active bidding on that. We'll see how many cattle they sold at the tail end of the week and how high they got as we start our weekly broadcast, or our next broadcast out here for Tuesday. But 172 to 175 for fat cattle last week, $2 to $3 higher. Your weighted average up through Thursday was 174.65, but that was not including any cattle in the southern plains. Your dress sales $3 to $4 higher, from 273 to 276. Your weighted average on dress steers up through Thursday of last week in the northern plains was 274.74. Box beef cutout values. Your weighted average on all of last week's choice cut sales were down hard. Down 12.59 on the weighted average of all of last week's sales, with a weighted average price of 278.86. The demand just fell for your choice ribs after the holidays, and that was responsible pretty much for all of those losses. Your late week Friday afternoon cutouts were even lower than that, even lower than the weighted average, a couple dollars at 277.16. Now your select was okay, didn't really fall out of bed. Your weighted average on last week's select cuts was 259.01. That was down just 1 1/4. And your late week sales were a little bit higher than that, about 50 cents higher at 259.50. That was all based on 607 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, and your choice select spread was just under $20 and fastly narrowing, and going to continue to do that. Slaughter last week, of course it was a holiday week with Monday being New Year's Day, but 556,000 cattle harvested on the estimation. Couldn't really compare that to the previous week with Christmas and all that, but compared to the same week a year before, it was 9,000 less. But we did have a decent Saturday slaughter there, 52,000, and that compared to 53,000 the same week a year ago. So we might start seeing a little more Saturday harvest, and that would help us get our kill back up there where it needs to be. Talk about what else is going on. Ag. Producers must continually plan to protect their operations' profitability along with limiting downside risk while facing volatile livestock and feed markets. Navigate risk management with Ever.ag. Talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction ended the week at 228.96. That was up 175 from the end of the previous business day. And your last CME cash feeder cattle index came in at 228.09, so running very close to that. You look at your trends for last week, it was really hard to tell because we didn't have a comparison from the previous week. Some sales, hadn't had sales for 2 weeks. Some of them still haven't come back to business. But your real-time index based on cash feeder steers for 2 weeks, at going through the light receipts there and then coming back up out of them at the end of this past week, your 2-week trend on your real-time index was up 637, and that makes sense to me. I think most of your feeder cattle markets were $5 to $10 higher than before we went into the Christmas holidays. Very active markets all around, both on calves and yearlings. A lot of fancy strings of calves selling in the northern plains, and they're mostly all long-time weaned now, where before they weren't. Fort Pierre livestock auction, Fort Pierre, South Dakota, had a big sale on Friday. 5,000 head. I was looking at their steers. They had over 1,200 six-weight steers, average 648, with a weighted average price of $277.50. Now that was an extreme stick-out deal at most places. Had nearly 1,100 seven-weight steers. They averaged 738 with a weighted average price of $259.55. Your National BeefWire stick-out sale of the day for late last week was Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska. Had over 2,500 head there, and a good test of the market in several weights. You look at this automated market report through Cattle Market Central, and you see 294 head of 5-weight steer calves out of Burwell, Nebraska. They average 567 at 307.81. How about 641 head of 6-weight steers? They average 665 with a weighted average price of $258.64. And 414 head of 7-weight steer calves in Burwell, Nebraska, average 732 with a weighted average price of $243.36. Look at a couple of weight groups of heifers. 484 head of 5-weight heifer calves, average 576 with a weighted average price of $261.96. And 417 head of 6-weight heifer calves in Burwell, Nebraska, average 646, weighted average price on them $238.61. My buddy Jack Payne out in Fallon, Nevada, had a special on Friday at Nevada Livestock Marketing. He had 2,250 head at his feeder cattle special. Now he'll be having another bigger feeder cattle special here in about 2 weeks, and I'll be out there for that. Probably have twice as many cattle as he did on Friday. But market was really good. They've had a lot of moisture out west, guys, and they are scrambling for stockers. You look at this market report that they put out there after the sale on Friday, and you look at the steers. Those 3-weight steers averaged 366 with a top price on 3 weights of 395. Your 4-weight steer calves had an average price of 357 with tops at 386. On your 5-weight steers, they averaged 297. This is way out in northern Nevada, guys, with the top price on 5-weight steers of 344, and your 6-weight steers averaged 258 with the top price in your 6-weight category at 279. Thought it was worth mentioning that their 3-weight heifers there at Nevada Livestock Marketing had a high price of $4.14. Oh my goodness. How about some individual quotes from all around the country? Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska sold 200 head of steers in one whack. They weighed 570 pounds and bring $319.50. Extreme premium there. How about Crawford Livestock Market, the Robertsons there, friends of mine, they sold 59 steers, weighed 656 at $283. That's a big price. How about Winter Livestock Auction, Winter, South Dakota? They sell 80 steers, weigh 614 at $294. But the most impressive market that I saw late last week or over the weekend, and your Macrocin no BS top quote for the day, come out of Modoc Livestock Auction Yard in Alturas, California. That is extreme rural Northern California. They've been broadcasting with us here since early fall, and they sold black heifers there, stocker heifers, 91 head, weighed 515 and bring $316.50. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.